Hi there! In a previous video, I created this chatbot that uses the OpenAI ChatGPT API. So it works just like ChatGPT. So I can ask something like, can you create a bouncing ball animation in JavaScript? And then it will generate the answer. Now, there is a bit of a problem here because this doesn't work like ChatGPT in the sense that it doesn't stream the response. So I have to wait quite a long time, as you can see. But I think the only reason why I have to wait so long is because it doesn't start producing the answer right away. So in today's video, I am going to change this so that it actually produces the answer token by token. So as you can see now, we actually got the response. But because this is such a long response, it took a long time to make it. But it would be nicer if we could see it as it's writing it. So let's try and do that too. Now I'm actually curious if this code will work. So let's copy this and see what it does. Now I have my project open here. I will just create a new file here, ball.html. And I will paste this code here and let's open this ball.html. And look at this. This is actually a lot cooler than I expected. I thought it's just going to bounce up and down, but it actually bounces from corner to corner. That's pretty cool. Okay, but enough of this. Let's go back to our chat. So how we can do this is we can use the streaming option in the OpenAI API. So if we go to platform.openai.com and we go to the API reference, which is up here in the menu, and we go to chat, then here in the request body, we have all these fields here, and one of them is stream. So if set, partial message details will be sent like in ChatGPT. Tokens will be sent as data only server sent events as they become available, with the stream terminated by a data done message. So we have to use server sent events. Now we are using PHP. So let's first talk a bit about server sent events and how they work in PHP. I will delete this ball from here. And I will create another folder here called SSE, where we can test these server-sent events. So I'll create a new file here called events.php. So here is how server-sent events work. So basically, normally when you send a request to a PHP server, you get back one response. So then if you want to listen to some event, you have to keep polling the server, sending new requests one after another. But that is pretty slow and there's a lot of overhead from the creation of the request. So with server-sent events, we can create a persistent connection to the server, and then the server can send multiple little packets of data during that persistent connection. So let's try and do that. So the first thing we have to do is we have to set a header, which will be the content type, which will be text/event stream. So this will tell the browser that this is actually an event stream. And we also should set a cache control header. I don't remember what it's called. Cache control. Is it like this? No cache. I think it's this way. And then we have to send ob end flush so that we will actually flush this request straight away to the browser so that it gets this message. And after this, we can have what is called an event loop, which is just a fancy word for just a loop. So we can say while true, so this is an infinite loop. And then in this infinite loop, we can send some message. So the way we send a message with the event stream is we just echo out data and then some data here. Now we can also optionally echo out a type. Sorry, it's not called a type, it's called an event. And then we can specify what kind of event it is. So by default, it will be a message event. But we can actually set whatever we want here. Normally there's like message and ping. So right now, let's set this to message. And we have to have a new line after this. And we have to have two new lines after this. So basically the data will be something like this. Event, message, new line, data, something, two new lines. And then another event, message, data, something. It will look like this. And then, of course, we need to add some sleep here because we don't want to actually use all the resources of the server. So let's put a 1 second sleep here. And after this, we actually have to call flush so that we will flush this message straight to the browser. Because normally PHP will buffer the requests, and only after the script is done, it will send the message out. But with the flush, we can send partial messages out. And then we should add here, if connection aborted, then we will break from this loop. So this means that if the client closes the browser or closes the connection, then we will stop this loop so we don't actually keep sending data. I guess the server will automatically do this anyway. Like if there's a stale connection, it will kill the PHP script that's running. I think, I'm not sure, but we want to make sure that we are not actually leaving these infinite loops open on the server. So let's do that. And that should be just a basic implementation of server-sent events. Now, how do we listen to these events? Let me create here an HTML file. And let me add here some boilerplate code and SSE test. And then here, let's create some div with ID results. And then let's put some script here. And here in the script, we can say const event source will be new event source. And here we pass in the URL to the source, which will be events.php in this case. And then we can say event source on message. And this will get a function which will get the event. And then inside this, we will have event.data, which will be this data right here. So let's just say document query selector results inner HTML plus equals event.data. And then let's put a semicolon here. Now, I mentioned before that you can have other types of events. So if you put your own event here, then you can do it this way. You can say event source, add event listener, and then you put your own event here, and then you put the function here. And then you get the event inside this function. And we can actually put message here. So we could do it this way too. So let's in fact do that. So what this should do now, it should listen to events, which should send this message every second, and then it should be appended to the results. So let's see if this works. Now, it's a bit difficult to test server-sent events when I'm running the PHP built-in web server, because it can only take one connection at a time. So I cannot have two event sources listening at the same time. So if you're testing this on your PHP built-in server, then you might have some problems where everything gets stuck because you have the event source doing something in the background. So you can't get any more requests. But let's see what will happen. So if I go to /SSE, then I should get something every second. But clearly I made some mistake. So let's inspect the situation. So let's refresh. Events.php not found. Perhaps I have to add it as /SSE/events. And let's refresh this. Okay, and we got SDFS, and it's getting more and more all the time. So in fact, what we could do is we could say something like, to simulate ChatGPT, we could say, message is this. Hello, I am your assistant. How can I help you today? Please tell me what to do. And then we could do something like, for each of str split message as letter, and then we could send one letter at a time. And then if we refresh this page, and actually this is the problem with using the PHP built-in server, the connection is still open to the event stream, so we are not actually able to load this. But I think if I stop loading this page, then it will stop the event as well. And if I refresh now, then we get hello. Now it's pretty slow, but as you can see, it's automatically typing one character at a time. So let's actually go here and change this to usleep, which is microseconds. So I guess 1,000 microseconds is a millisecond. So if we put like 50 milliseconds, and let's do this again and reload, then now it's writing the message like this. So now we have to do this with ChatGPT. And here's a problem. Normally, when the event stream connection is closed, it will be started all over again. So now it's writing this over and over when it stops. So we have to have a way to stop it. So let me try and stop this, and let's do this. Let's add in the end echo event stop and a new line, And I'm not sure if we have to have a data with the event, but let's add something in here. So now after we have finished reading the whole text, then we send a stop event. And then we can go to our index.html and we can add another event listener for event stop. And then we can say event source dot close. So now this should only print it one time. So if I refresh this, hello, I am your assistant. How can I help you today? Please tell me what to do. And then it will stop there and it will not continue anymore. And we can actually check in here in the network tab. If we open this and we go to event stream, then we see all of the messages here. So we get the message type and then the data. So we got all these and then finally we got a stop. And then we know when to stop. Now you can do all kinds of cool stuff with this event stream, because if you have this forever loop here, if I go back to that code, you could add some kind of if statement here, like if file exists test.txt, then you send the message. And then we could add here file exists. So now what will happen is that when we create this file, then the client will get the message. So if we refresh this again, we get nothing. Nothing is happening here right now. But if I go to the terminal and I create a new file here, touch sse/test.txt, and I click enter, then we should get a message here, which I'm sorry, if I actually type the path correctly. So it's in php/sse/text.txt. So now if I hit enter, then we should get file exists here. And it's gonna keep repeating right now. But anyway, you get the idea. If you want to learn more about server-sent events, then leave me a comment down below and maybe I will make a separate video on server-sent events and what you can do. Maybe build like a chat application or something like that. But now let's get back to ChatGPT. So how do we do this with the ChatGPT API? So if we go to our message.php here we are sending the message to ChatGPT. So we use the OpenAI library, which is this one, by the way, if you want to use that. And we use the chat method. And the chat method takes the options and an optional stream argument. Now the stream can be a function, which is the right function for the curl library. Now I'm not going to get into what that is in this video, but I might make another video on the server-sent events and then I will talk more about that. So if you want to see that, then let me know in the comments. But anyway, we have to pass in the function here. And the function takes two arguments. It takes the actual curl handle and it takes the data that comes from the OpenAI API. At least the built-in curl takes these two arguments. I think they use the same here. And then here, what we can do is we can echo the data. And then from this function, for some reason, we need to return the length of the data. Otherwise, it will give an error. Don't ask me why, I don't know. Maybe the data can vary in length and it is not known at that moment, so we have to pass in how much we read of the data. Something like this. Now, the data from the OpenAI API will look something like this. There will be data, just as in the event stream example I did. There will be data and then there will be some JSON object here. Now, I don't remember exactly what it looks like. So what I will do is I will just error log this response. And then let's see what it looks like. And I will in fact just die here. And let's open up the logs here and let's go to our chat and let's send a message. And it's obviously not going to work now. Wait, why did it work? It worked because I forgot to add the stream option here. True. So let's try this again. Refresh and hello. Okay, now it doesn't work. So let's see. Curl exec could not call the curl write function. Okay, I think that is because I have the die here. So maybe that did something unexpected. But anyway, we get this kind of response from there. So let's copy this and paste it into a file. So actually, as you can see, this is one error log. So we actually got two pieces of data at the same time. So we have to deal with that. So what do we have here? So in the first data, we actually have only the role. So it says now the role changed. And then in the next one, we actually get some content. So this is the first token that we received. So I'm not going to actually care about this first one at all because we know it will be the assistant role. So I'll care only about these ones. So let's see how these are formatted. So we have data and a colon and a space, and then we have a JSON object, which has an ID, object, created, model, choices, which is an array, which has an object with delta, which is an object with content hello. And we have an index and a finish reason. Okay, so we care only about this content. So it will be in choices 0 delta content. So what we can do here is, first of all, we have to decode the JSON. So let's do JSON equals JSON decode, and we will get a substring of this because we have the data in the beginning and we don't want that. And this is 6 characters long. So we will say substring of data starting from 6. So that should be the JSON object, which is this. And then we need to get choices 0 delta content. So then we can say content equals JSON choices 0 delta content. And now we should do the same thing as we did over here. So we should see if this exists, then the text will be that. And actually I will not replace these new lines here. I will do that on the client side. And I'll call this content. And otherwise the content will be JSON error message, if we have an error message. I'm guessing it's the same way. And otherwise we will just set it to sorry, but I don't know the answer to that. So now we should get the content. Now here's the thing. This connection to the OpenAI API will be an event stream. But we have to have this whole thing be an event stream. So this message.php should have the headers here for the event stream. So we are like replaying the event stream from OpenAI to our own application. So what we have to do is we will not echo this data directly because I want to only pass in the content to the client. Now we could just pass in the data and then read it on the client side, but I don't want to pass all that data there. I want only to pass the content of the message. So what I will do is I will say here, echo data, and here I will pass in the content. And then I will copy these headers from this file and I will put them in here. And I guess I can put this connection aborted inside this loop. Now, I'm not sure if this matters. Like, if the client closes the connection, then we are still connecting to OpenAI. But I guess it doesn't matter. But we're not going to break. We have to return something. I'm not quite sure what to return here. Return 0, because this should return the length. So maybe returning 0 will stop this thing. This is optional, but I will put it there anyway. And then when we echo, we of course have to flush so that we get the data right away. Now I have to rethink this common mark converter, which converts the markdown to HTML, because I can't really do this on a partial content. I can't do it for every token. So we have to maybe do this on the client side or something. And actually, we don't need any of this stuff anymore because we will only get the stream. And then here we should say that it will end. So we would say echo event stop new line and echo data stopped and 2 new lines. So that should actually be all we need in the message.php. But now we have to change the client side script. So let's go to our script.js. Now here we have this send message function, which will post to the message.php. So we have to convert this into the event source thing. Now, I'm not quite sure how I can post to an event source. I guess it's possible, but at least we can get, but we will have the chat context here, which we are posting every time, which I actually could save in a session or something. So we don't have to send all this stuff every time. But let's do this. Let's say const event source is new event source. And we will pass in here the /message.php. Now, before I delve into how to send it as post, I will just add it as get. So I'll just copy this in here, and that should work. And then we should say event source on message. We will get the event and we will say, now what will we say? we will say update message because I have made this update message which replaces the message box with the new message. And the reason why I did this before is because I want to add the message up here as the blinking cursor. But now I want to update the message to the new message. But we can't just update the message to the event.data because that is just one token. So should we do something like let message equal an empty string, and then we will say here message plus equals event.data. And I have used message already, so I will use something else. I will say response, and then we will add to the response, and then we will update the message with the response. And sorry, this is the wrong way. This has to be actually the message, and this will be the response. So now we set an empty response, and then every time we get a new token, we add the token to the response, and then we update the message to be that full response. And then we have to know when it stops. So we have to say event source dot add event listener stop, and we will have a function here, which I really don't care what is in there. If the event is stop, then we will say event source dot close. And then we will know that we have now the full message. So then we can push the message to the message history at this point. So actually how this context works is it's just an array with the question and the answer. So this will be the question that we asked, and then we will say response will be the response. So that should be all. We have to add this message focus as well. Actually, we will add it just here. Okay, so let's see now what will happen if we run this program again. And we say, hello, it is not working. Let's inspect the situation. Event source on message is not a function. Event source's response has a MIME type application JSON. Aha, I forgot to remove the old headers from here. And is that the reason for the on message not being a function? Because it cannot do it. So let's refresh. Hello. Event source on message is not a function. Okay, but we are actually getting a message. Sorry, but I don't know how to answer that. And event stop. So I forgot to add some new lines here. So I have to add here 2 new lines. And let's go back here and refresh this. Let's clear all of this stuff and let's say hello. And we get a message. Sorry, but I don't know how to answer that. And stopped, but we still keep doing it. Event stop. Not quite sure what is happening there. Do I need to pass in the event even though I'm not using it? Let's try that. Hello. No, it is not working. And in fact, we are not updating the message. Let's add here a console log of the event. And here as well, stop event. And let's refresh. Hello. On message is not a function. So we still get that. Okay. Event source on message. So should I do it this way? And let's try this one more time. Refresh. And I will empty this and say hello. Okay, now we got actually the response. And it is not sending another response. Okay, so that works. So now we have to figure out why we got sorry, but I don't know the answer to that. So let's error log this JSON. And let's error log the data. Well, we don't have to error log the data. Let's error log this, the substring of the data. And let's open the logs here and try this again. Hello. And what do we have here? Invalid request error. None is not of type string. Messages 0 content. Undefined array key. Sorry, I forgot to change it to get. So we are not using post, we are using the get method. I forgot to do this because I had a small break in between and I forgot where I was at. So now it should work. Refresh. Hello. Sorry, but I don't know how to answer that. So now we did get some content, hello, and an exclamation point, and then we got an error. So let's see what is the problem. First of all, I cannot log JSON because it is an object. So I have to say print R with the true for return. And let's try this again. Oh, I'm getting some answers. So let's say hello. Okay, sorry, but I don't know how to answer that. How can I assist you today? So it actually worked, but I have a problem here. We don't actually get this every time because the first one will be this. So in fact, we should get the delta every time. So I can do something like if we have the delta, then we get the delta content or an empty string if we don't have the content. Now, I should probably do some better error handling here, but let's do this for now. So if we get the first response, which is just the change of the role, then we just treat that as an empty string. But we have to have the delta property in the JSON every time, or otherwise we're going to say, sorry, but I don't know how to answer that, unless we have the error. So now there is also one more thing. The data can be just done, because this is how ChatGPT tells that it is done. So if the data is data done, and I will probably trim this. If it is data done, then we will also say that the content is empty. Now this is terrible code right here. I will fix it later, maybe, but it should work. So let's refresh this and let's say hello. We are still getting some problems. Data done. So let's log these in here where we get the error, and let's see what the data is here. Hello. So what did we get here? This one. Choices delta. Okay, I forgot. So we got two of these things at the same time. So what we actually have to do is we have to say that deltas equals explode data. We can't really do that because there might be data inside of the response. Just explode from a new line, data. And then for each of the deltas as data, then we do this. And I can move this over here. And now this should be one single row. So we can skip the rows that do not start with data. So if string position in data of data is not 0, then we continue. We don't care about that. Otherwise, we will do this. We will get the JSON part from the response, and if we have the delta, then we return with the delta. The content will be the delta. If we have an error, then we will return with the error. If it is data done, then we will also say that it's empty. And otherwise we will say, sorry, but I don't know the answer to that. And we flush it every time when we get. For every row we get in the response, we flush it. So now if we say, hello, hello. Well, that was a very short message. And the reason is I used the same variable. So this should be the string length of the original data. So what do I name these variables? Let's call this a delta. And let's try this again. Hello. Hi there. How can I assist you today? So now it is working. So now I can do something like create a bouncing ball animation in JavaScript. Now I will not get the code highlighting. It will just be in Markdown format. So sure, here's a simple example of a bouncing ball animation in JavaScript. Okay, so now it's actually writing the code and it seems a lot faster because we don't have to wait for the whole thing before we get some response. But now we have this problem that we are not converting this into HTML and then highlighting the code. So how do we fix that? Because before I did that in the end of the message. So I converted it into HTML. But now I can't really do that because it's probably going to fail on a partial markdown. Is there some kind of JavaScript markdown converter? JavaScript markdown converter. Showdown.js. Let's see if this one will work. Showdown is a JavaScript markdown to HTML converter based on the original works by John Gruber. can be used client side in the browser or server side. Great. Okay, let's try this out. So I will use this CDN. And what version should I use? 2.1 points. So if I go to 2.1.0, then I should have some code here. Yes, so I will put this on my index.html and I'll add it here. Okay, so then how I use this is I will have to do this. New showdown converter. Then I have the text and then converter make HTML text. Okay, let's do that. So I'll go to my script and here I will just set a const converter. I will call it markdown converter. Okay, and then when I update the message, I will just add it here. When I update the message, I will first say new message equals converter, which I should call markdown converter, make HTML new message. So this should convert the message into HTML from markdown. Now let's see how this handles partial markdown. So let's open this and say, hello, can you write a PHP function that generates the Fibonacci sequence? Sure, here's an example. Well, this is not working. Let's see when it gets to the end, will it then work? Yes, so it works after it has finished it, but it is not turning it into a code block. It is. How about my highlight.js? I have it here, highlight all. Now I think the problem with this is that the highlight.js wants this code to be in a pre-block. So it has to be like this, pre and then code. I'm pretty sure. So if I now call HL.js highlight all, then now it works. But the problem might also be that I'm not converting the new lines into actual new lines because they will just be like this in the code, in the message. So I'll say that first. New message equals new message dot replace /n globally with a new line. Is that how it works? Let's try this out again. Write a hello world in C. Whoa, what happened there? Why is this an H1? Console log new message and new message. What is happening here? Write hello world in Rust. Main. Sorry, I don't know how to answer that. I'm getting too many logs here now. I'm logging something else as well. I don't have to log these events anymore. Write hello world in C++. Okay. So why do I not see any /n's? What is that? Is that a tab or is that a... Yes, that is a tab. 3 spaces. So I'm actually not getting the new lines. So why is that? Let me move this log up here and let's try this again. So let's refresh. Write hello world in C++. And this is interesting how it... because it didn't add the markdown. So it just started with the hash symbol. So that's a problem. But do I have new lines in here? Content, return. Wait a minute. Does JSON decode convert /n in the data into actually a new line? So do I have to say here string replace new line with a /new line? Is that the reason? Let's try this again. Write hello world in PHP. It disappeared. What happened? Okay, now we are getting actually /n here. But what happened to the message? Where did it go? It converted it into a comment. What is this madness? The reason is that it didn't add the markdown again. So is this considered a comment in Markdown format? Let's try something else. Write a bouncing ball in animation in JavaScript. I do not have the as an AI language model, I do not have the capability to produce a visual animation, but I can provide you with a code that can create a bouncing ball animation in JavaScript. Okay, so now we got a result here, but it stopped there for a while when it started to write the markdown. So I'm guessing this is a problem with the showdown markdown converter. So it does not know how to handle partial markdown. So let's try something else now. Let's say write a bouncing ball script in JavaScript. So now it starts to write this, and then it starts the HTML. Okay, that looks good. But now here again, it's not converting the partial JavaScript. So this doesn't look that great. But it did actually convert this HTML into a code highlighting. And now as it finished this, it converted it into an actual code block. So that works pretty well. Now I might do something like count the number of code blocks, markdown code blocks. So I could do something like this. Let code block count equal to, how do you count the number of occurrences of a string in JavaScript? JavaScript count occurrences in string. Match length. Okay. So we'll do that. And here we have to pass in these ticks. I hope the ticks work inside the regex. That is very weird. Is this really how you do it in JavaScript? Or this? What? What is this language? So this is the code block count. And then if it is odd, how do you check odd? If code block count modulo 2 is not 0. Is that how you do it? Then what we will do is we will say new message plus equals new line and 3 ticks. So now it should add the ending ticks to the code block if they are not there yet. If I did that correctly. So let's see if that will work. Refresh. Write a JavaScript bouncing ball animation. Now something is not working because it is not writing anything. There was probably an error in my code. No, it is writing something. Temp is not defined. What did I do? Temp. New message. Okay. Refresh. Write a JavaScript code that produces a bouncing ball animation. As an AI language model, I cannot produce visual output. Okay, look at this. We are actually getting live code generation from ChatGPT and it is highlighted. That is great. So now it works just like the real ChatGPT. Now this is going to be the end of today's video. I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. I will keep working on this a bit more off camera and then I will publish this on my GitHub. So if you want to use this, you can go there and check it out. And make sure to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos like this in the future. And also let me know what kind of videos you want to see and I will make sure to make those kind of videos. So thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.